Chance for Torquay. Chris Hargreaves, the captain. If he stays onside, Carlisle checks instead. He's looking for Benyon. Sells.
It's back. Crisis is over.
Hey.
Woohoo!
Did you put out the fires?
Yeah, it's all fine now. Yeah, no, we're all good. Back to normality-ish.
No, but Keisha's tonight.
We were talking about Bradley. Just talking about Bradley Ash. What you saying, Tom? Just
Yeah, I was just saying.
yeah.
Just about his interview today. Again, it's going back to he spoke to Gary and he really, got what the club's ambitions were and he wanted to sign. And I think that's good for us. Again, proven goal scorer at the National League South
He sounds
level.
like a hard-working player as well. So that will feed into what Gary likes to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think what's good is two things that are good about it. Well, three things. One, he looks like a good player. Who's got, it doesn't matter what level you're playing at, scoring goals is not easy. So it doesn't matter what, having that ability to score goals is one. I think signing players this early is a good sign. I think I've always thought that signing players later in the summer might suggest that you're signing players that weren't your first choice. You've missed out on other targets. So signing players so quickly would suggest that they've gone in for him and he said, yeah, I'm up for that. And I think also the third thing is what we didn't do last time when we were in the South through design or however they wanted to do it is sign players from that level. Bringing players down from the level you're at or signing players down from the level you're at can be risky because you're going to a level that they haven't played at before. To sign in a player with a prolific goal scoring record and who's been who's you can see from the reaction from their fans how much they'll miss him. So I think adding that to what we've already got, who knows if Jarvis will be here come August, but to have those two, we've got a ready-made goal scoring option if he's not, which I think is good.
We can flex our muscles a bit in this division, can't we? In the National League, we couldn't get players to sign for us that easily from other National League teams, could we? We got a few, but we couldn't flex our muscles and get better players and attract them down from London way or whatever like that. And in this division, we are a heavyweight, aren't we? We should be able to attract people like Bradley Ash.
I think what's interesting as well is that whether or not I didn't get a feel last year, we've talked about this before, that we were signing players to fit into what we wanted to do in terms of a system. So that kind of
we were getting whoever would come.
Absolutely, and that kind of 3-4-1-2 that we were kind of playing towards the end of last season might be the way forward because that it gives you options going forward. You've got to have people that can defend. I think Stobbs has got more than we saw offensively. Because he was being asked to play whether he's going to go for a much more rigid 4-4-2, which I've always thought is a more attacking formation than 3-5-2, just because you have to play with natural width and you've got kind of better cover defensively in that formation. So whether or not he's going to just go in with Jarvis and Ash. There's another player there somewhere.
Oh God!
Whether we're going to go with Jarvis and Ash and Witt to get crosses in the box and get people in the box, get Asa forward, get them in the box. Might be the way to go.
I've missed you guys.
Like Brangelina, isn't
it? That could be a teaser for outtake, Sam. That.
Yeah, no, that's in. Don't worry. Are
we still getting the best of last season, Sam? Or
I've had a bit of a break from Edson, won't I? Because I've been editing for a lot of years now. I'm not just talk.
Is there anyone out of the group that we released that you would have maybe liked to have seen stay for the South?
No.
There
hasn't
I
been
love that hasn't signed yet,
there?
has he? Oh, Tomlinson, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because he didn't play at all last season.
Probably cheap and knows the league, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's a decent squad option, personally.
What are we waiting on? Lovett and Martin.
Youth players. Youth academy. That's the one.
Noyes went, didn't he? And Casella.
Now, it's an interesting one. I thought Dave Thomas really hit some good points in he's done one or two articles where he kind of was thereabouts. The problem we don't have an under-21s kind of team, or we don't.
No, that is right.
But then I was thinking actually, because the conversation you have in your head when you change your mind notes, because he is right about that. But my philosophy is getting them out on loan in the Southern Premier, getting them out in the South. I think we're doing that fine.
Many clubs are out in the South. Yeah.
They're not stepping up, though, are they? They're not coming back.
They're stepping up, especially Windsor's done well, but especially Alex Noyes, people rated him. At least just give him some chance.
I agree with what you're saying, Sam. But I think the problem with it, which for what, and I don't know why, I don't know what the reason is that you've got to be doing it with a purpose. You've got to be loaning players out with a view to them coming back more match ready. But the problem is all we do is we loan these players out and then we release them.
Yeah, what's the point?
I don't think there's much intention to ever play them, Chris.
No, and this is the thing, isn't it? And actually, I think so. If you look at this season, we've got, as it stands, we've got no graduates going into the first team. But actually, we're not producing any players that are going to be first teamers either now or in the future because they just get released. You look at people like Louis Slough.
The only reason why
is that they're not playing. So actually, you're on a smaller budget. You're in a league where your finance is going to be that much more. You're going to
fans playing youth players as well.
At what point does our youth system get to the standard where it's going to be producing players for us?
But let's be honest. Let's be right. We don't have a youth system. It's not our youth system.
It's Pro Direct.
You're not getting the top players from the area because they go extra Plymouth. So you've just got to hope some diamonds come through, some rough diamonds come through, and
it's Alex Moyes. The only reason I could understand if they sat down and gone, look, we've got Hansen and McGavin, and we're not going to be able to probably release them, and Dawson's coming in, Hull and Lapsley. So that's 5 central midfielders. And if you think, well, I'm not confident we're going to have to move these on, what's the point of you being sixth choice? And I kind of understand that. My personal advice, if that is the conversation that's happened to Alex Moyes to those players, is go and play football. Just enjoy playing Southern Premier or even a South team. Go and play football. Don't sit around until you're 21, 22 and you've kind of missed that. At least if you're...
They've got choices to make them, haven't they? Because they'll need to get jobs now, won't they? And they have to think about their career. They have to think about their future.
It's very grueling.
Surely it's not going to pay out for them now, is it? By the look of it. So
surely there's someone in the club who's been keeping an eye on those youngsters that did go out on loan, and if they're not producing enough in, say, the Southern Premier,
it's got to be brutal. Football's brutal.
You've got to be brutal. Football's a cutthroat industry, and
you have to remember as well, of course, that they train with us all week.
Yeah,
they're around the club. It's not like they don't see them; they see them in training. It's
just so disappointing that we've had players for so many years now. Who was the last person who came through that looked quite decent? Was Sam Chaney, and he never came through.
Lavercombe, we got 50 grand. And that was it.
But you look at Olav. I mean, he came in, didn't he? Came on as a sub and then was subbed off. Wasn't he last season? It's
first game of the season. That was it.
First game of the season, wasn't it?
That was a bad indication of how the season was going to go at that point, wasn't it? Oh god!
And that's another. Gary always said, as long as I'm manager of Torquay United, Olaf stays. But
I have to say as well, this probably isn't a popular viewpoint on it, but I have to say, having spoken to somebody several years ago about the cost of running an academy, whatever involvement we have in it, you have to be able to get something out of the cost of it because it costs so much, and it's not a proper academy, but even so, it's going to cost money, isn't it? So unless you're producing players that are playing in the first team and then making you money in sell-ons like Ollie Watkins by way of an example, but unless you're doing that, you're much better off focusing
you have to go all
on your
in.
First team, because if you're not doing it,
if you go all in, you'll make your money, won't they? But our owners aren't going to do that, are they? And you can understand that, but it also just ends up being a half-baked youth system. That
the philosophy has to be: we develop these players, which the philosophy was matched with Hansen, McGavin, Marshall, and Crowe. We have to get players from other players' academies, grow them, sell them, and when they then were a disaster, for most of the time, then that's where it goes wrong. It's a big gamble. It's such a big gamble.
It's a shame because Torquay is a pretty big area, isn't it? So there must be plenty of talented youngsters out there. Surely there must be players we could develop through.
Dixon's doing a big job with all that as well. So it's kind of
he is, but it's the standard they're playing. That's the trouble, isn't it? They're playing really low standard at the moment. So it's that.
You just thought they'd add a couple of players to that squad. They usually add a couple of the under 18s to the first team squad, don't they? But if they're going to keep doing that, they've got to get some return from it. Always point.
And it takes a long time to develop. From starting from scratch with a youth team, it takes years and years and years before you even get to a point where you can generate revenue from it. And it's. I would like to see younger talent coming through, of course, naturally, but.
That's one of the most frustrating things from my time supporting Torquay is cancelling the youth system twice, because that's just so disappointing, isn't it? So,
all right, can I just point out, I never go on Facebook, but I've just gone on because I had to check something, just for something for the video, and I never read the Facebook chat. The big Yellow Army group. But someone said in there that Aaron Downs is applied for the Gloucester job. I have no idea what the source is.
Oh, that's interesting.
Ooh.
It would make sense if it did happen. I have no idea. Don't shoot the messenger. I don't know anything like that. But I did think that the other day whether Downs would ever look into management.
Well, he's been he's been assistant manager for a few years now, hasn't he? So
Yeah.
he's probably got his own ideas.
And geographically, that makes sense to him, doesn't it? Because he lives in Cheltenham.
Yeah, but
then Ryan Dixon maybe steps up to assistant, perhaps.
Maybe.
or do we get Todd back as assistant if he's not happy overall? We don't know. That's I don't usually read out rumours, but I thought that could actually.
So just to finish your question on the squad, Sam, I think we're waiting on 2, aren't we? Martin
love
and love it.
Martin, the rumour on the forums was that illness is long COVID.
Yeah.
And long COVID, and it makes
true.
so much sense. Long COVID is absolutely brutal. I know I've got close family who've had it. And it's
unless he goes anywhere else, though, I'd maybe just give him time to decide.
Yeah,
maybe
if he was fully fit, I would love Dan Martin next season. Simple as.
I think it feels like they've given him some time because I don't think it's the right thing to do. Because with releasing Wyatt, they obviously think Martin's a better option because they've tried to re-engage Martin but not Wyatt. So they've maybe said
to have a
couple of months off.
at the moment, will he? So it's not like he's going to.
No. And if he's fit, he's a good option. You know, he was developing nicely, wasn't he? He's had a pretty desperate season with injury and then obviously complications from COVID. But if he can get himself back up on his feet, he's a good option to have in the squad.
I think plenty would have liked to see Ali stay, wouldn't they? But more because of his sort of popular character that he seems to have carved out for himself at Torquay rather than his quality of football.
There's no footballing reason for it, is there?
I still think we'll see him in the south next season. I just don't know where.
Yeah,
probably somewhere in London, maybe. Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, I could see him in that division. I mean, I'm not a great fan of his at all, but you know, he played some good games last season, didn't he? And he's up to south level.
And you'll have the game of his life against us if he does stay in the south. He'll be
probably defence is probably where we need to focus now, isn't it? In terms of recruitment.
And with Lovett as well, I think I'm not too fussed if he
I'd
stays or
imagine
goes,
he's
to be
probably
honest.
gone because as a reserve keeper, you can go pretty much anywhere.
I think you could get a young reserve keeper. Halstead's nailed in number one. I mean, obviously, if he gets injured, then that changes the scenario a little bit. But especially in the south, I think you can get away with having Halstead as the one and some young. I wouldn't say proper young keeper, but someone on the younger side.
I think Lovett in number 2 would be good in the south still. You know,
I think the problem
he's probably looking for a club nearer to home, isn't he? Because he won't be offered much at Torquay. So.
The problem with number 2 goalkeeper is it's a pretty soulless task, isn't it? Really, because actually, unlike any other position, unless there's an injury, loss of form, suspension, unavailability, whatever, you ain't going to play. So I guess
if goes out, then it could cost us big. Couldn't it? So you've got to have somebody.
We didn't even have a number 2 keeper at all. We had what's the young guy?
Holstein missed 5 or 6 games last season.
Yeah, I think as well. I think the thing for him is you don't know his situation, do you? Because if his dream is being a footballer, this is another year of a contract of being a footballer. So, and he may have a better option, he may not. But will he have a better option of being a full-time footballer for another year?
Probably not.
Probably not. So
he was really good, Lovett, wasn't he, at Hampton and away from home? He was a much better keeper away than home. It was really weird.
I was going to say that. Like when he was away, it was like he relaxed, and he's a good shot stopper. He has a few moments. He needs a lot of games under his belt, as all keepers do. So crucial that they do, which is why possibly getting number 1 part time is better for his career, but it's all like a lifestyle. But as soon as he's playing more, he just went missing. Like that Altrincham game. That was.
I didn't mind him to be honest. He got a bit more stick than I thought he deserved because I thought he did okay.
I think what was interesting talking about looking at what's around there was the speed with which Halstead and Lapsley re-signed. That took me by surprise.
I still thought it was a Southend thing.
Maybe, but I mean, you would have thought that those two, whether it be geographical, personal, whatever it might be, would maybe have seen what's out there. Is there a National League club? Is there a league club who maybe would have taken them? So the fact they signed quite so quickly, again, to go back to what I was saying before the drama.
I think it
shows the power of Johnson. Because Johnson signed Lapsley and they signed Halstead.
I think Mark Halstead hasn't got great ambitions as a footballer. I mean, not to disserve his character, but I don't think he's got a great ambitions for pushing off league
He's not from the south, though. Like that's what everyone was.
No, but I think he enjoys playing for Gary, as you said.
He wants to be number 1,
doesn't he? He could end up number 2 somebody else.
He's been number 2 his whole career to play games now.
And especially on the goalkeeping front, what I noticed in the playoff games, in the National South playoff games, was a lot of the keepers like to play themselves into trouble. They like to play it short, and that cost Worthing in the semi-final. It costs St Albans in the final, and you need a competent keeper at the National League South. I think that's going to be
by the standard of the National League South keeping last time we were in there.
Yeah,
it was appalling.
So that can only be a plus. I do wonder if Halstead, he had that really poor season, didn't he, with us? And then
he's
had a redemption season.
I think that's it. I think he's quite a fragile sort of mentality like that. I think he enjoys being loved at the moment, and he doesn't want to go away.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing, again, you have to look at the realities that we all look at. If Torquay have shoved a 2-year deal under his nose,
yeah,
probably going to take anywhere else, is he? So it's 2 years of employment, isn't it?
And Lapsley, he's not been fully fit all season, so I guess
I'm surprised at Tom, to be honest. I think that shows a bit of a lack of ambition on his part.
We don't know that though, because
does he think he should be back in the football league again? Because he was a football league player, but he clearly doesn't think he's going to get back there again.
I think it's bigger than that. I think if a club's actually offering you a 1 or 2 year deal, and you think, I've had a bit of an injury here and there, I'm liked here, whatever. I want to be part of the project.
He does, but shouldn't a player like that be trying to push to get back to the football league?
But what would you prefer to go and have a title if we win it on your CV, get yourself into the National League rather than go to National League, get released, and then you're done. One bad season, National League, you'll be done.
Yeah, I think the problem for Lapsley is I bet you right now he feels fine. A lot of his body, it looks to me like a lot of his fitness issues are just wear and tear, they're just physical stuff. Yeah. I bet right now he feels fine because he's not played a game of football for 3 weeks. It's just the toll it takes on your body. That was the thing with Mox, with Asa. I think if we need to manage these people better. Just having to pick them all in every game, which is basically what happened last season. Like, look at Asa, that patch we had around November time when we had the Derby Cup games and we had 5 midweeks in a row. He played every game for about 10 games. Then we didn't see him again from January to April because his body just, he's going to get injuries. So, but if you've got a McGavin or a Hansen or a whoever who can come in and not necessarily depreciate the quality of the team, contribute,
well, that's what they were meant to do last season.
I'm not sure about that sentence.
But that's what you need to
depreciate the midfield.
Yeah, but that's what they were signed to do.
But McGavin and Hansen are the bodies that are there now. That might be other people by then. This year it might be Dawson. But you need to have players who are not going to massively reduce the quality in your team.
What I'd like to
they
see.
Need managing.
Yeah.
Give Moxie the odd game off, get Martin in. If he's fit, if he's there, if he's available, not have to rely on these
I would
aging
like to
players.
see a young player come in who's got a bit more energy, who can play 46 games and you can count him, because then you don't have to worry about.
But that's McGavin, isn't it?
Because Dawson
McGavin played every game for Kings Lynn the year before.
Yeah, but I'm talking about an energetic young player, not McGavin.
But if
he still played 46 games.
Yeah.
If he hasn't got any energy about his game, Chris, he has to be
good. No, I'm talking statistically, not in literal terms. But actually, when we signed these players, Hansen and McGavin had been fit and played every game for their club. So that was what they aimed to do. It didn't materialise, of course not. But that, I think, was what they were brought in for.
Shall we go on to social media before we end?
Yes,
we'll get the Yellow Army involved.
Chris has got a nervous twitch talking about he's got a bottle of
yeah. No, it's just I mentioned Hansen's made my nose twitch.
Your Hansen allergy.
It was just your face, Dom. I saw it drop.
Oh.
On that note, so Yellow Army, we asked you on Twitter and Facebook. I have had a cold recently, so apologies if I sound a little bit worse for wear.
Oh, then you see me making excuses. Come on.
Oh, come here. We're basically just asking if you're happy with the recruitment so far. Thank you again to everyone on Twitter and Facebook who contributed. Dan Torquay Man says the re-signing of Hall, Mox, Halstead, Lapsley, Dawson and Stobbs have filled me with confidence. The addition of Bradley Ash sounds very promising. Still need some more bodies, but happy so far. # Yellow Army. Tibbs says last year we were happy with business being done early and there being 2-year contracts until it turned out most players were not very good. I don't have faith in our scouting until performances prove otherwise. So that's fair enough. I think
probably
you've
a
got
sensible way of looking at it, but
We've got
it's down there.
We've got Matthew who says, think it's been a very promising window, strengthening a few of our main positions. Will be interesting how Ash plays alongside Jarvis if both push or one presses. Though we still need a defender and possibly a midfielder, but Ash has done well with Weymouth, so could be a very big player. Barnaby says, very pleased so far. Does the Ash signing suggest we're doing away with all new signings announced in one day? I really hope so. Keeping Jarvis is really important, and we need another competent and quick winger. Midfield looks strong, needs to recruit well at centre-back to complete the core of the squad. Mark Hurst says, I'm scared by recent recruitment, so reserving judgment. Won't matter who we sign if Johnson doesn't play the front foot football that was absent last year. We've got Alan who says, very promising so far with a decent core building up. The real proof of intent will be if we can sign a good centre-half and another midfield player and not rely on loans or short-termism. Will not win us the league, as I'm sure Yeovil will be strong and others will challenge. And Pete says... And Pete says, thought on pre-season friendlies. Should we play just games with a meaningful purpose and preserve the key players for the new season, or do we run the risk of early season injuries?
Yeah, it's a tough one, that balance.
You need to match sharpness.
Yeah, there's a fine balance.
Messed up with that terribly. Well, on the season too.
What does Johnson like to have? 6 games, I think it is.
We do. We were knackered last year, weren't we? It takes me back by about end of August.
And we weren't.
And the year before we didn't have good enough opponents. I think you need a mix of minutes, but you also need to get morale up.
Yeah,
we'll play Exeter.
We'll play Plymouth. We'll get Plymouth. They'll thrash us like they did last time, probably.
Yeah,
but it's just
please don't play Plymouth again. Please don't play Plymouth.
But there's rumour we're not going to Buckland this year. I don't think we're doing Tiverton by the looks of it. So it'd be interesting to see. It'd be interesting. That's just rumour mill that I've heard, but it'd be interesting to see sort of like the away ones. Are we going to go slightly further afield, maybe, and play a bit more challenging sides?
The other problem as well is the lower down you go, the harder meaningful friendlies are, because you're not going to get, unless you're going to go much lower. Clubs like Buckland, what are Buckland? How many levels below us are they now?
2, 3.
Exactly.
2. Yeah.
So look at Tiverton. That's the other problem, isn't it? You've got to get meaningful matches that test you and get you, as well as that balance between games that you can test you and get you fitness, as well as maybe the glamour games like Exeter Plymouth, which maybe make you a few quid.
I always think you need a mix of on Football Manager. I always have a mix of games that you get your morale up, but also there are one, maybe maximum 2 glamour games where you get a bit.
Torquay are in the Premier League in that one, though, aren't they?
Yeah.
I put it to the side and I went for next year. But
we're a Leicester.
Come on, Tom.
that was hard.
Sorry, Sam.
I'm putting a smile for it all right now. But don't support 2 clubs, especially if they're both useless enough to go down. At least Torquay tried, though.
Be like me and just support the one rubbish side.
Very trying.
Another thing for people moaning about Torquay, right? It's not really an argument, but at least they tried. They were just terrible.
Yeah. There's just Craig Hughes on Facebook. He just adds, he so far so good. In his opinion, was always key to get Dawson, Lapsley, and Halstead signed up, and a nice surprise it was being able to sign Stobbs permanently. It's nice to see Torquay United planning ahead and keeping things sorted early for a change. Keep it up. This was obviously done before we signed Bradley Ash, because he said any rumours that Ash is going to sign, and he has. Do we think Lovett has decided to sign, or whether he's going to go somewhere else? And he asked us for, do you think Ollie Tomlinson could play a big part this season, being as he signed a new deal and did well at Chippenham at the end of last season?
I think he can be a very good squad option, because I never looked at him saying you're bad. Like whenever I saw the very brief times I saw him, he needs games under his belt.
I think you either play him or Marshall, don't you?
I prefer to play him over Marshall.
How much he believes in
last
Marshall.
Season, I prefer to play him over Marshall. Like seems to have a good attitude. Let's just get him some games. Not to build a team around him or anything.
I think a lot of it depends on what happens with Marshall, because you think he pretty much vanished for those last 10 games, didn't he? And there was no suggestion he was injured. So it depends, and as Dom said earlier, will these 4 we talked about, will they still be there? When people are doing their business, will they get a move somewhere else and they won't actually be here? But I think one thing we need more than anything now is a dominant centre back.
Yeah.
So if you're going to have a back three of Donnellan, somebody else, and Moxie, then you've got that.
Well, will it be about?
Could be last year's episode again, couldn't it? Saying that's what we needed last year. So it took us a while to get him, didn't it?
And it's not hard. It's not easy to find. It's not like saying what we need is a goal scorer all the time.
They don't have to be a John. Goals. I'm going to say Joe Lewis, do they? They could be like somebody experienced at National League South level, 30-year-old who knows the division, who can lead from the back. They don't have to be, the second coming of Joe Lewis. They just got to be a leader at the back, as he said. You can put in the centre and you can rely on. So
yeah.
And Craig says Ash is a great signing. Let's go, you Yellows. And so thank you everyone who wrote in for us. Talky Talk doesn't click unless you all come join in. So we'll try and get you all involved this season. Hopefully a successful winning one.
You're going to get a jingle for him, Sam.
Yeah.
I want a jingle.
Definitely.
All right, you get a jingle. Then.
Maybe not now I made that Leicester quote, but we'll see.
Yeah.
What I like about Stubbs, going back to him briefly, is that he's a versatile player. You can play him.
I like him. He
Play
don't always come off at times, but
he's
I
a sort
like
of
him.
guy you can count on week after week. I'd have thought. So
now he's permanent. I feel like he might just relax and not saying he panics, but it does change your mentality a little bit.
Yeah.
So hopefully in a good way.
You know what you're going to get from somebody like him, whereas a lot of the players last summer we really didn't know, and then we found out.
Yeah.
Anyway, on that note, come on, we're ending on a positive note. Well, on a positive note, we're back, and we'll be back. Yeah, get a few more weeks, wait for a few more signings. Only big news. We'll be back for another episode, but
make our pre-season predictions.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I will be back before that, surely.
All right. There's your positivity. Right. Thank you for joining me, you three. Nice to see you all again.
Nice to see you, Sam. Thank you.
Yeah, pleasure.
Bye.
Here's Hargreaves, chance for Torquay. Chris Hargreaves, the captain. If he stays onside, Carlisle checks instead. He's looking for Benjamin. Sells.